What's up, guys? Thank you for joining me. Today, we're going to talk about James Comey getting indicted and why I believe we shouldn't be getting too excited. If you're like me and you like President Trump, you're probably not going to like what I have to say, but please listen. This all started back in 2017 when Senator Chuck Grassley asked Comey the following. Please pay special attention to the words Clinton and Trump.
Director Comey, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
Never.
Have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
No.
He didn't ask him if he had ever been an anonymous source, period, which would have cast a much wider net. Instead, he limited it to, have you ever been an anonymous source with regard to the Clinton investigation, that was about her emails, or the Trump investigation, which was about Russia. This is very important. We're going to get back to it later. Now, that occurred in 2017. Because the statute of limitations for lying is only 5 years, he would have had to have been prosecuted by 2022. So normally, this is a done deal, it's expired, and we can't go after him for that. But 3 years later, in September of 2020, Ted Cruz got another crack at it.
On May 3rd, 2017, in this committee, Chairman Grassley asked you point blank, quote, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? You responded under oath, quote, never. He then asked you, quote, have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration? You responded again under oath, no. Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
So your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak. And Mr. McCabe, if he says contrary, is not telling the truth. Is that correct?
Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
So because Comey has reestablished his testimony, the clock starts again, and we have 5 years to prosecute him from that point on. That hearing was September 30th of 2020. So with just 5 days left before the statute of limitations runs out, Trump pushed Bondi to get this done. But he didn't do it behind the scenes. He did it in public.
He is also putting pressure on his own Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to take action, not just hatred, but action against his perceived political enemies. On Saturday, Trump suggested on Truth Social that the Department of Justice should go after former FBI Director James Comey, Democratic Senator Adam Schiff, and the New York Attorney General Letitia James. He was saying they're, quote, guilty as hell. He then went on to write, we can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now.
You know how bad that looks? It looks like Trump is telling his attorney general, they impeached me, they indicted me, and I want them prosecuted because of it. Now, we agree with you. We believe that those who tried to put you in jail for the rest of your life on bullshit charges and tried to take away everything you have, we agree that they should be prosecuted because it was an abuse of power. But that post should not have been made public. Now, we all know that James Comey is a liar, he's corrupt, and he's a dirty cop. But can we prove that he lied in court, which is the only thing that he's being charged with? Comey has done some terrible things, but the only thing that he's being charged with is making false statements to Congress. And I want to know, can we prove it? How is the government planning on proving that James Comey lied? Well, it appears, at least up until this point, that the government plans to prove that he lied simply by saying that 2 other people say so. One is former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, and the other is former FBI Attorney James Baker. Now let's go back to Cruz and dissect everything he says, because this is what the entire case depends on. Listen to what he says about McCabe. We're going to start at the beginning.
On May 3rd, 2017, In this committee, Chairman Grassley asked you point blank, quote, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? You responded under oath, quote, never. He then asked you, quote, have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration? You responded again under oath, no.
Nothing new. His question up until that point is verbatim of what was asked in 2017. But since 2017, Andrew McCabe, who worked for Comey, was caught leaking to the press.
Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it.
We're still good. Comey was aware of it, but listen to the very next thing he says.
And that you directly authorized it.
That's a problem, and I'm surprised he tried to sneak this in. Cruz is summarizing that McCabe said that Comey was aware of the leak and that he authorized it. McCabe didn't say that.
Comey is accused of lying because what Ted Cruz said, and this, yeah, right, and what Cruz said, and I think this was just a garble on his part, was that Comey authorized McCabe to orchestrate the leak. And what the Inspector General found, and this isn't even just what the Inspector General found, this is McCabe's own version of events.
Right.
McCabe said that he directed the leak and he told Comey about it afterwards. Now, they have a dispute about what exactly McCabe told Comey afterwards and whether Comey was approving or disapproving of it. But the charge is that Comey authorized the leak, and he didn't authorize the leak.
That's according to McCabe's own testimony to the Inspector General. Here it is on page 4. On October 31st, 2016, McCabe said that he told Comey that he, meaning McCabe, authorized the leak. And Comey did not react negatively. He just kind of accepted it. He also said that Comey thought it was a good idea that it happened. Now, Comey denies this, and we can go over his account of the situation, but it really doesn't matter because McCabe admitted to the Inspector General that it was McCabe who leaked the information to the Wall Street Journal. And by the way, the article in question was about Hillary Clinton's emails. So McCarthy is correct. According to McCabe's own account of this incident, he said that he leaked it and told Comey about it afterwards. Now, in addition to the IG's report, we also have Cruz interviewing McCabe. When I show you this next clip, pay special attention to the words aware and authorized. There are two completely different things.
Did James Comey authorize you to disclose information about the Clinton Foundation investigation to the press?
Perfect question. That's exactly what we need to know. But McCabe doesn't want to answer.
I didn't need James Comey's authorization.
I didn't ask if you needed it. I asked, did he authorize you to disclose it? That's a yes or no question.
Again, perfect. But McCabe won't answer.
I authorized the disclosure.
Okay, you're still not answering my question. Did James Comey know about it, and did he authorize it? Yes or no? Did he know about it?
To my recollection, sir, yes, he knew about it.
Did he authorize you? Did he in any way give you the green light explicitly or implicitly?
That's the third time he asked, but Cruz doesn't wait for an answer. This is the million-dollar question, Senator. Did Comey authorize it? Let's wait to hear his response under oath. But Ted doesn't wait. Instead, he quotes from a Washington Times article that lets McCabe off the hook.
I didn't ask Jim Comey.
I'm not asking whether you asked. I'm asking, okay, according to the Washington Times, April 18th, 2018, Mr. McCabe insisted he told his boss that he had authorized disclosure about the Clinton investigation, but Mr. Comey has denied this claim. And Mr. McCabe told investigators that Mr. Comey knew he had authorized disclosure and agreed it was a good idea. Is that accurate? Is that your testimony to this committee?
Comey agreeing that it was a good idea that it was leaked is very different than Comey authorizing it to be leaked. I'm really surprised that Cruz went there twice. Why are you quoting from a newspaper article when you have the witness right in front of you under oath? You've asked the question 3 times. Just wait for a response. Here's the rest of that.
That is my recollection.
So you're aware that your testimony is 180 degrees opposite Mr. Comey's sworn testimony to this committee, in which he insisted he has never authorized anybody to leak to the press.
I'm not going to say what Director Comey said or didn't say to you. However, your characterization of a leak is not accurate.
They can't even agree on what a leak is. But none of this really matters because McCabe was just interviewed by Jake Tapper. Listen to his response when he's asked if Comey has ever authorized anyone to leak.
But let me ask you just more broadly. The indictment says that Comey lied in 2017 and then again in 2020 when he was asked about the 2017 testimony, when he denied having ever, quote, authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation, unquote. Given your experience with Comey, was he honest when he said he had never authorized a leak?
All I can say to that, Jake, is I'm not aware of Jim Comey ever authorizing some other person to leak information. That's not something I experienced personally. It's not something I saw in all the time I spent working around Jim Comey. So I can't sit here and characterize his testimony, which I think is far from clear enough to be the basis of a false statement or perjury prosecution. But nevertheless, all I can say is what my own experience revealed, and that is I didn't ever see Jim Comey authorizing other people to leak information.
That's the government's star witness? Are you kidding me? This is going nowhere, guys, and I hate to say it. But you might be thinking, we still have FBI attorney James Baker, who says that Comey told him to leak. Except he's not really saying that exactly.
Look, McCabe, Baker, all of them are, Comey loyalists. And so, even though they're on record saying, yeah, he leaked, he authorized it, Baker in particular will say, well, I was under the impression that he was authorizing leaks. Comey's defense is really quite simple. He's going to say, gee, these guys are mistaken. That's not how I remember it.
I know you don't want to hear this because I don't want to say it, but this is going to backfire. My love for President Trump is greater than my hatred for James Comey, and this is going to make Trump look bad, just like it did with Kimmel, because the affiliates caved and now put Kimmel back on the air, and now Kimmel is painting himself as the victim, and James Comey is going to do the same thing.
He's already making a plea in the court of public opinion, cloaking himself as the poor victim of a politically driven vendetta by the president, which is ironic since Comey led the first crooked lawfare campaign against Trump, launching the damaging investigation that became known as the Russia hoax.
In case you haven't seen it, right after he was indicted, Comey went on Instagram and said this.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump. But we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it. Which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial.
Unfortunately, I don't think it's even going to get to trial.
McCabe never said that Comey authorized it. What McCabe said was that McCabe authorized it. This is a leak to the Wall Street Journal. And then he told Comey about it later. The only way that you could convict Comey beyond a reasonable doubt is Comey would have to truly believe that he personally had authorized the leak. He would have to actually have authorized the leak, and then he would have had to know that he was lying when he denied it to the Senate. They're not even going to be able to prove that he authorized the leak because, by all accounts, he didn't. So I don't think this case even gets to trial.
It's not going to go to trial, guys, and even if it does, I don't think we can win. Here's something else to consider. Remember when President Trump was indicted by corrupt Alvin Bragg and the left was all giddy? We reminded them that an indictment means nothing. It doesn't prove guilt or innocence. It just means you have enough probable cause to get to trial. A prosecutor can basically indict anyone for any reason, which is why you often hear them say that a prosecutor can indict a ham sandwich because they're fairly easy to come by. But did you know that in this case, the grand jury actually didn't want to indict Comey?
Senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. All right, Judge, good morning. Perjury cases are not easy. It's my understanding they're very difficult to prove in court. So, I mean, prosecutors kind of have an uphill climb here, don't they?
They have a substantial uphill climb, but this is the third attempt to indict him. The first attempt by the now departed U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. The grand jury rejected it. Yesterday, the grand jury rejected a second attempt to indict him, which included 2 perjury counts and 1 obstruction of justice. Then the prosecutors presented a third indictment, and this one the grand jury accepted.
It doesn't look good, guys. And it's not just the grand jury who think the case is weak. It's the line prosecutors who told President Trump, we don't think we could win. But Trump didn't want to hear it, so he installed his own lawyer, Lindsey Halligan, to get the indictment.
At all levels of the Justice Department, there is reportedly a sense that there is simply no there there. MSNBC reporting this, quote, the Justice Department's plan to indict James Comey encountered a last-minute roadblock earlier this week, when line prosecutors presented President Trump's newly installed U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia with a memo suggesting their case against the former FBI director is too weak to pursue. Halligan, who has never prosecuted a case in her entire career, she was an insurance lawyer and Trump's defense lawyer, is, quote, rushing against the clock before the statute of limitations involving one charge believed to be central to the case expires within the week.
I hate using clips from MSNBC because they're such liars, but this has been reported by multiple sources. Now, it isn't always easy to be consistent, but I really try to be. When Nathan Wade was installed to prosecute Trump, a personal injury lawyer who had never before prosecuted a criminal case, we were up in arms. Trump is kind of doing the same thing. He installed Lindsey Halligan, who had also never prosecuted a criminal case before. She's an insurance lawyer. Trump put her in specifically to go after Comey. You get it? The other line prosecutors refused to prosecute Comey, so Trump installed a loyalist who would. Things are a little bit different because Trump was innocent and Comey is guilty. I just don't know if we can prove it. Can you imagine how defeated we're going to feel if Comey beats this? We cannot conflate our hatred for Comey with the facts of this case. And this is very easy to do because Comey is hated.
The things that Kash Patel that you just played that he was talking about that you and I have spoken about for years, Maria, the Russiagate stuff, I'm as big a critic of that probably as there is. I wrote a book about it. I think it was a disgrace, and history will remember it that way. This indictment is not about that.
What about the leaking in general? I mean, what about leaking a story that they may have known was a lie to the media? Because if you're the director of the FBI, you need the evidence to say, yeah, I mean, you know, for years, congressmen and lawmakers were trying to understand, Devin Nunes, John Ratcliffe, trying to understand what's the origins of this investigation. So what was the origins of Russia collusion with Trump? And so they never really had any evidence of it, but they leaked it to the press?
Yeah, but that's not what this case is about. I totally agree with you if you were talking about the information that was provided to the FISA court that claimed that Trump was in collusion with the Kremlin. But that's not what this case is about.
We need to judge this case on its own merits. We know that Comey's corrupt. He lied to the FISA court. He doctored evidence. He spied on the Trump campaign. He pushed the fake Russian collusion narrative that tore this country apart. He refused to prosecute Hillary Clinton for her emails. And again, what he did to General Flynn is beyond disgusting. I'm going to show you that clip in a second. We know that Comey is a dirty cop. But as McCarthy said, that's not what this case is about. We need to put our hatred for Comey aside and ask ourselves, can we prove that he lied to Ted Cruz? And I'm not sure that we can. But there is one clip I want to show you. It's also from 2017 when Senator Susan Collins interviewed Comey. Listen to him actually admit that he leaked a memo.
You mentioned that from your very first meeting with the president, you decided to write a memo memorializing the conversation. What was it about that very first meeting that made you write a memo when you had not done that with 2 previous presidents?
As I said, a combination of things. A gut feeling is an important overlay on but the circumstances that I was alone, the subject matter, and the nature of the person that I was interacting with, and my read of that person. And yeah, and really just a gut feel laying on top of all of that it's going to be important to protect this organization that I make records of this.
And finally, did you show copies of your memos to anyone outside of the Department of Justice?
Yes.
And to whom did you show copies?
I asked, President tweeted on Friday after I got fired that I better hope there's not tapes. I woke up in the middle of the night on Monday night, because it didn't dawn on me originally, that there might be corroboration for our conversation. There might be a tape. And my judgment was I needed to get that out into the public square. And so I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter. Didn't do it myself for a variety of reasons, but I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel. And so I asked a close friend of mine to do it.
And was that Mr. Wittes?
No, no.
Who was that?
A good friend of mine who's a professor at Columbia Law School.
So there he is admitting it, right? Case closed. He leaked. Not so fast. There's a couple of problems with this. Remember, Grassley asked specifically if he leaked anything regarding the Hillary Clinton email investigation or the Trump-Russia collusion investigation. That entire exchange with Susan Collins was about Michael Flynn. So that's his first excuse. You asked me if I leaked about Clinton or Trump. I leaked about General Flynn. The second thing we need to remember is that Grassley specifically asked if Comey authorized anyone else at the FBI to leak. But Daniel Richman doesn't work for the FBI. He's a professor at Columbia Law School, so technically that's not a lie either. And the last thing is the statute of limitations for those statements has expired. Because while Cruz restarted the clock in 2020, he was tying Comey specifically to the exchange that he had with Grassley. Cruz did not tie Comey to this exchange that he had with Collins. Or did he? Listen to the very last thing Cruz says.
So your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak.
Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
Never authorized anyone to leak. Not just the Clinton and Trump investigation, and not just those who worked at the FBI. Never and anyone are two very important words. That's the wider net that we needed. Now, I'm not the only one who caught this. Here is John Solomon.
When Ted Cruz goes back the second time and reaffirms what he just heard from Comey, he broadens the claim. And I think that's something I just want to hear again. Maybe we all should hear.
Yeah, let's play it again.
He doesn't narrow it to Clinton and Trump anymore. He says, I just want to make sure you're saying you never asked anyone to ever leak. See if we can play that, because I think he broadens the claim there.
Here we go.
Your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak.
So
that's the piece you're talking about.
He drops out Clinton and Trump at that point. Now, again, listen, I think we're splitting hairs when we're getting this, and I'm not sure a grand jury would have tolerated that level of splitting hairs. But I did notice that in the follow-up question, and it's very interesting that the indictment makes no reference to 2017 testimony.
Is the jury going to be okay with that, or is that going to get too deep into the weeds and we're going to be splitting hairs like Solomon says? I guess we're going to find out, right? Now, let me tell you why I hate Comey. It's not just because of the things I already mentioned. It's because what he and Agent Peter Strzok did to General Michael Flynn.
According to newly released documents, on January 4th, 2017, FBI agents decided to close their investigation of Michael Flynn and his ties to Russia. After much searching, they had found, quote, no derogatory information about Flynn. So it was over. He was in the clear. But it wasn't over. Corrupt FBI official Peter Strzok demanded that the investigation stay open until the Bureau could invent a crime and crush Michael Flynn. And in the end, that's what happened. Hey, he wrote to a colleague on January 4th, don't close Razor. That was the internal name for the Michael Flynn investigation. At this point, it was over for Michael Flynn, though he didn't know it. The FBI arranged an interview with Flynn at the White House. He had no idea what was coming. According to handwritten notes, FBI officials plotted to, quote, get him to lie so we can prosecute him or get him fired. It worked.
That's true. Here's the handwritten note he's talking about. What's our goal? Truth, admission, or to get him to lie so we can prosecute him or get him fired? Now, let me tell you why I find this incredibly disgusting. As a cop, I've probably questioned more than 1,000 people. That is a basic function of police work. It's to conduct investigations, and you do that by asking questions. From the simple things like, where you're heading tonight or have you been drinking, all the way up to the more formal investigations where you're interrogating someone about a homicide. And in each of those cases and everything in between, the goal always, 100% of the time, is to get the person to tell you the truth. It is never, ever to get the person to lie. The only reason why Comey tried to get Michael Flynn to lie is so he could prosecute him. And Comey is proud of this.
It's hard to imagine 2 FBI agents ending up in the sit room. How did that happen?
I sent them. Something I probably wouldn't have done or maybe gotten away with in a more organized investigation, a more organized administration, in the George W. Bush administration, for example, or the Obama administration. The protocol, 2 men that all of us have perhaps increased appreciation for over the last 2 years. And in both of those administrations, there was process. And so if the FBI wanted to send agents into the White House itself to interview a senior official, you would work through the White House counsel, and there'd be discussions and approvals and who would be there. And I thought, it's early enough, let's just send a couple guys over. And so we placed a call to Flynn, said, hey, we're sending a couple guys over. Hope you'll talk to them. He said, sure. Nobody else was there. They interviewed him in a conference room at the White House Situation Room, and he lied to them. And that's what he's now pled guilty to.
What did he think they were coming over there for?
I don't think he knew. No, we didn't tell him. Just said, we got sending over a couple of agents. I want to ask you some questions. I didn't have this conversation. My deputy director did, but hope you got a few minutes. You can sit down and talk to them. And he said, sure.
The reason I played you that clip and keep telling you how much I hate Comey is because I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think we're going to win this case. Not when your star witness comes out the day after the indictment and contradicts what's in it. But I will say, Trump is not stupid. He has to know how much is riding on this case. I'm hoping the DOJ has text messages or emails or something else that we haven't seen that will prove Comey's lying. And according to Todd Blanche, they do.
What folks don't know, what Mr. Comey's friends that have been on TV all weekend don't know, is what evidence the government has. They saw the video that you played, and they think they know, but they don't. The only people that know the evidence right now is the FBI, the Department of Justice, and the grand jurors in that room.
What do you think? You think Comey's going to be found guilty? I didn't ask if he is guilty, because we all know that he's a compulsive liar and extremely corrupt. I'm asking if you think we could prove that he's guilty. My prediction, he beats the case. He beats the case, the left rubs our face in it, and this fuels the Democrats' narrative that Trump is a dictator, and this carries them all the way through the midterm elections. There's a lot of stuff riding on this case. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see how we can win. Please let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. That's all I got for you on this one. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It'll motivate me to make more. Thank you for staying to the end, and I'll see you on the next video.
Joining me now is Maine Republican Senator Susan Collins. She is a member, of course, of the Senate Intel Committee that questioned Director Comey publicly and privately today. And as we were discussing, Senator, your question got him to admit being a leaker. Did you know that was coming?